Good afternoon, everyone. So it's been less than 2 weeks since the UCP presented their no-help budget, and already they are in full rewrite mode. Albertan families are suffering with punishing monthly bills, and there is no help for them in this budget. In fact, in estimates this morning, the UCP confirmed that they will continue raising our personal income taxes as our brackets do not change with inflation. So that will happen for the remainder of this fiscal plan, which is the next 3 years. And over the course of this government's life, then, this will cost Albertans an additional $1 billion in provincial income taxes. Jason Kenney used to rage against this policy when it was the federal Liberals doing it in the 90s, but that was then. And now, bracket creep is the official policy of the UCP, and it's costing Alberta families $1 billion in additional personal income tax. Now, what's more, the UCP is forcing Albertans to pay more property tax, more school fees, tuition, more student debt interest, more camping fees, and more for car insurance. The only acknowledgement of these soaring monthly costs in the no-help budget was the so-called natural gas rebate, which turned out to be completely fake. Not a single Albertan will see a dime in rebates this winter, and it's highly unlikely any Albertan will ever get a rebate from this particular home heating program at all. Now, there's no mention of a gas tax holiday in the budget and no mention of the totally inadequate $50 electricity rebates announced yesterday. But at a town hall in Grand Prairie last Friday, a constituent, confronted the Minister of Finance with her $1,900 electricity bill, more than double her bill from this time last year. The minister said in response he didn't really express sympathy for this woman other than to say he couldn't afford to pay his own electricity bill. So if Alberta's finance minister, who takes home a comfortable salary, claims he can't afford his bill, why is his response for regular Albertans so inadequate? But if the UCP is already trying to rewrite their no-help budget on the fly, I have some specific actions they can take today. They can stop forcing Albertans to pay $1 billion more in income tax. They can bring down some of the heavy new costs they've imposed on Alberta families and business. They could bring in a real natural gas rebate that helps families with the bills that they have this winter. And they can take real action on electricity prices. UCP could reattach benefits to inflation, like the child and family benefit, the seniors benefit, income support, and AISH. There is no mystery in how to help Albertans through these tough times of the rising cost of living. The only real mystery for Albertans is why the UCP refuses to give families any relief from the new costs they've forced on them. Thank you, and I'll take questions.
Questions on the floor?
Well, then I will go with my usual question in French. Can you summarize in French what the problems here are with the budget that you're describing?
Ce que nous avons appris ce matin, c'est que ça va être $1 billion pour nos impôts personnels que le gouvernement va recevoir de nous. Les gens ordinaires, les Albertains. Alors, c'est un gros montant d'argent et c'est ce que nous avons aussi appris ce matin, c'est qu'il n'y a aucun plan pour adresser le coût de la vie pour les gens, soit dans l'électricité d'une manière substantive ou dans les coûts de la chauffage et le gaz naturel.
Pourquoi vous dites pour l'électricité? Parce qu'il y a quand même ce rabais de $150?
Alors, il y a ce rabais-là pour $50 par mois, mais nous avons appris ce matin que les gens ont les coûts d'électricité d'un $1,000, $2,000 pour les fermiers, etc. Ça va faire presque aucune différence. Ce matin, j'ai parlé avec une femme. Elle habite seule Les coûts de l'électricité étaient $400 en janvier. Alors, $50 pour ce mois-là, c'est minuscule. Il n'y a aucune garantie que après ces 3 mois-là, qu'il y aura un autre programme pour les gens. Ils peuvent mettre un maximum sur le prix de l'électricité. Ça va être un programme qui va être bien plus effectif pour le coût de la vie.
I have another question that I'll ask in English so everybody understands. Yesterday I talked to an economist who was saying that, in his opinion, it would be more efficient to fight inflation by just writing checks to the population, like the electricity rebate, for example, than meddling with gas prices, like cutting the provincial tax on diesel and gas at the pump, because this could cause distortions in the market and drive costs higher because people won't necessarily change their behavior. Yesterday, Kathleen Ganley said that the gas tax, like being cut, is a good step in the right direction. Do you still hold that position, knowing this?
Well, I think what's important here is that all of this is being done. This is a budget by the seat of the pants. It is being completely rewritten 12 days after it was introduced, because the UCP entirely failed to take what Albertans were telling them, which was that their cost of living was rising precipitously. They failed to listen to people, which is why no one trusts Jason Kenney and the UCP to look out for them, which is why so many people have questions about their competence and credibility. And so now they are rewriting on the fly. There is no question that there are thoughtful ways to ensure that we are protecting consumers, either through lump sum rebates or through a thoughtfully designed electricity cap that we have been advocating for months now. But what they did bring in this budget document, which apparently is not worth the paper it's written on, it's being completely rewritten right now, is a fake natural gas program, nothing for electricity, and nothing for the overall rise in cost of living and inflation.
To revive the Keystone XL pipeline, what should make this pitch?
I think what we have right now is a situation where we need a premier who is focused on getting Albertans back to work, on diversifying the economy, on attracting new investment, and making sure that we are reinvesting thoughtfully in people so that we can do something about the rising cost of living and people's concerns about healthcare. That's where we need to be focused right now. That proposal would take another several years to make real. What we need right now is focus on rising cost of living, which is driven by a number of factors, exiting from the COVID-19 pandemic among them, and international geopolitical considerations on the other hand. What we don't see is a premier who actually cares about what people are focused on right now, which is why no one trusts him to have their best interests in mind.
He says that this thing could be built by the end of this year or early next year. Like, do you see any path for that?
That's not up to me, and quite frankly, I don't trust the Premier's credibility on this or any file really having to do with Keystone XL, seeing as he was the guy who threw away $1.3 billion and did not protect us as taxpayers at all with that deal in terms of its cancellation. And so I don't trust his numbers or his projections. I am not alone in that. The vast majority of Albertans do not trust him either. I want him and his government to focus on making life more affordable for Albertans and ensuring that all of these global economic shocks that we are seeing, that he's got his eye on what matters, which is ordinary people trying to get by here in Alberta.
Any other questions on the floor? Do a quick check on the phone. Star 9 if you're joining us on the phone. Raise hand function if you're joining us via Zoom. And seeing none, that's all from Shannon Phillips, and now we'll have Emily Ceci. Thank you.
Okay.
Stick around. Oh. Thanks for staying. Well, it's another day and yet another reason why Albertans can't trust Premier Jason Kenney and the UCP government. Last year, the Premier abdicated responsibility for public health decisions and said, quote, "These decisions are better taken locally," end quote. In fact, he encouraged municipalities to implement their own public health restrictions due to the diverse needs across the province. Today, Premier Kenney and the UCP are directly contradicting themselves and taking that decision-making power away from municipalities. These powers currently exist under the Municipal Government Authority, and the Premier is now saying he will directly target them for his own political reasons in an attempt to save his own skin at his leadership review. For a government that claims it's a grassroots party, and a Premier who even signed a grassroots guarantee, he's launching a direct attack on local democracy and the wishes of Albertans. Currently, municipalities have the power to make these decisions if they so choose. And these decisions should be made at the local level between democratically elected leaders who were only elected 5 months ago and their voters. Now the UCP is interfering with that relationship and imposing a top-down dictatorial governance style. And don't forget that this is the same government that constantly warns of federal government overreach. But now Premier Kenney and the UCP are doing the exact same thing they accused Justin Trudeau of doing. The irony is not lost on me, and I don't think it's lost on Albertans. Unfortunately, the Premier and his government can't see the hypocrisy, and that's yet another reason why Albertans don't trust this government. The UCP needs to respect the wishes of Alberta voters and scrap this bill. Happy to take questions.
Joe, it's possible that Edmonton City Council will ditch its mask mandate at its meeting today. If that happens, is this whole exercise in this legislation pointless?
No, it's not. It's not at all. I think it's another example to Albertans that this government will reach in and without any negotiation, without any discussion with AM or municipalities, they will decide what they want to do. It's not pointless to know more about who this government is. Whether Edmonton changes their bylaw or not, that's really up to them. And that's the way it should have stayed. And this, as I said, this government overreaches and accuses other governments of doing the same thing, but they're doing it to municipalities in this province. And I was a city councillor for 15 years. And I can tell you that I remember negotiations with government. I remember discussions. I remember MGA amendments taking a really long time. And here we are today. It got announced yesterday. There's a bill that'll get second or first reading today. And we'll be debating changes to the MGA that the municipalities had no role in participating in.
Do you share the same concerns as Edmonton Mayor Amarjeet Sohi when he worries that it could open up a can of worms, essentially, in which the provincial government can step in and stop certain bylaws from smoking to various traffic bylaws? Are you worried about that as well?
Number one, I don't think we trust this government not to do those kinds of things. They've shown that they have a desire to do whatever they want. They'll put the responsibility on municipalities if they don't want to act, and then they'll take it away if they don't want municipalities to act. So I think the mayor is correct in saying, I don't know where this is going. They're not talking to us. They're not negotiating. They're not talking to Alberta municipalities, which is the organization you usually sit down and talk with. Our government did those things. We had respect for the different people at different orders of government. That's not shown here by this government. Nobody trusts this premier to act in the best wishes of their local constituents.
Who do you think he's trying to please with this bill?
Yeah, I can read the part again. It says when he goes to April 9th in the leadership.
Like, who is he trying to please? Who wants this?
Who wants this? Yeah, people who don't want municipalities to. Well, I think he's trying to show that he's the tough cop on the beat and he can do what he wants and he can push municipalities around. Municipalities have been, there's over 300 of them. They've operated for, over 100 years. They know how their local situations work in their municipalities. And for someone to come in and just to override all of that and say this is how it's going to be shows the level of care and concern that person has for local governments.
I'm just going to re-ask that question.
Oh, sorry.
Again,
Okay.
Kind of,
I don't know exactly who they are.
No, yeah, no, I don't mean to name names, but what constituency wants this? Is it the anti-vaxxers? Is it the freedom fighters? Like, who do you think who is he supporting?
It's the people who are going to cast a vote for him on April 9th. Those are the people he's most concerned about. He's not concerned about local governments and the relationship with them at this point in time. This government doesn't really act that way. They don't act in the best interest of local government. You know, last night at estimates, I asked the Minister of Municipal Affairs, you are awash in cash now. Why don't local governments see some of that? And he said, well, because we made an agreement and I'm going to stick to that agreement. Well, no, they didn't make an agreement. They told local governments what they were going to get. So that's not an agreement. That's not a partnership. But that minister basically brushed off any concern that local municipalities would have around, why aren't you sharing this money? Basically, they were saying. Yep.
Got one question on the phone. I'll just go to them and then come back to the floor. You can say your name here at the top.
It's a new thing, we don't like change.
Are you hearing?
I'm wondering if you have seen the proposed amendments, and if you can speak to, aside from face mask bylaw, how the changes could impact how municipalities have the ability to do their job going forward.
No, I haven't seen the bill. Nobody has, as far as I know. So it's on public health restrictions, and it's in this area. So it could potentially go beyond masks, but I don't know that at this point.
Can you follow up on that?
No, that's everything. Thank you.
Okay.
Go back to the floor real quick.
Yeah, there was an instance where municipalities actually did ask for some intervention, and that was with the election of Calgary Councillor Sean Chu. The title of the bill is pretty narrowly focused on health mandates, though. Is that something you'd be seeking to allow an amendment to somehow address that situation?
Councillor Chu? Yeah, I was part of the group that said he should step down, and the minister should take some action if the councillor wasn't going to do that. The minister decided not to do anything, and I know that has not met with satisfaction in Calgary. There are still many, many people who want to see that the back of that councillor.
So since this act is being opened up, would you be open to proposing an amendment to address that?
See, that's the problem, is that this act is opened up unilaterally, not with the wishes or the negotiations with Alberta municipalities, where they could do a number of things together. But what we're seeing is this premier is going in, surgically inserting something he wants, and then he's getting out, and he's saying, I have a partnership with you. Well, that's just hokum.
Okay, but you're dodging the question. The
Sure.
question is about, do you want to see some provision in this act that would let a province take action if somebody in council is elected as accused of wrongdoing? Because right now they can't, right? Or is that too slippery of a slope for you?
I would take that to Alberta municipalities, is what I would do. And I would say, let's talk about this. Do you want this? Can we make this MGA better for everyone? That's what I would do.
Any other questions on the floor?
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much.
Tens of thousands of Albertans have already provided their idea for how we can build Alberta's future. You can too by going to albertasfuture.ca.